Guys, like, comment, subscribe, share the video, especially if you love college football as much as I do. Here's my official and my final Florida versus Miami football game prediction. Now, as you know, I like to talk about college football teams and their seasons, upcoming season, and give predictions. This time, I'm kind of done with that. I'm going to go through all the big games for week one. Now, I'm going to do it again during game week. But I figured I can go ahead and get started now because at this point, everyone's pretty much got all their players. They pretty much have all their coaching staff figured out unless they fire somebody like Northwestern did last year for a good reason. And then everything's pretty much locked and loaded and ready to go for the most part unless someone gets hurt. And I hope that doesn't happen. Okay. Excuse me. I know Florida actually went out and got a great transfer portal class, including Cormani McClain, a really good and talented defensive back from Colorado. And they still have Graham Mertz, and you imagine he's going to be healthy and ready to go. Florida's going to have a much better talent to work with than what they've had in a long time, so that's really exciting if you're a Florida fan. Miami, on the other side, they went out and also had a top 10 transfer portal class. And not just that, but they always have elite players when you have Mario Cristobal. Speaking of Cristobal, this will be his third year with his program, just like Billy Napier. Now, another thing they also have in common, neither program has been very successful. Miami has just been a little bit more successful on paper. But again, neither program has looked good. They've both struggled. They've both almost been kind of a laughingstock, both programs, especially given the teams that they've lost to. And they both have been owned by Florida State in the last 2 years. Both coaches are 0-2 against the Noles. And they both had close losses this past year. So this is almost a game nobody really wants to see, but because it's a rivalry on paper and because Miami is, according to Phil Steele, Miami is a top 10 team going into this year, and he thinks highly of Miami. Nobody has really thought much of Miami at all up until this year, as highly as Miami. And Phil Steele has been very accurate, so shout out to Phil Steele. I agree with Phil Steele. I do think Miami's, I don't know about being top 10, but they're going to be a legitimate team this year. Look at who they got from the portal. Cam Ward, bunch of defensive players to replace a lot of the defense they lost. And Miami actually had a legitimate, decent defense this past year. Now, the pass defense wasn't great, but their run defense was very solid. And Florida's defense, on the other hand, despite who they've gotten from the portal, I don't think it's going to matter. And I'll tell you why. Their coaching staff has not changed. Their defense these past 2 years has been a huge letdown for Florida. Okay? And one thing Florida has been able to do, well, they've been able to run the football. Now, I know Trevor Etienne is gone. That's going to hurt them to an extent. But Billy Napier prides himself with good quarterback play, and that's something he has been able to do the last few years. And Graham Mertz has actually outplayed Anthony Richardson in terms of turnovers and all that stuff. Florida has not really been turnover prone this past year, and I think you'll see more of that. But, however, what it's going to come down to in this game will be, can Florida run the football? Who runs the football better, and who makes the most mistakes in this game? Now, again, I've seen Cristobal cost his team by not willing to take a knee, and I've seen Napier have dumb decisions with his players, dumb penalties, like spitting in people's faces on special teams. When your defense is good enough to get a stop against Utah, you have two people on special teams with the same number. By the way, that's a penalty. He even did it in the spring game. I think I trust Mario. Here's the thing: I don't think either coach is elite, clearly, but I trust Cristobal to not hurt themselves in a big game more than I trust Napier. I also think Miami's defense is not really going to take much of a step back. I know they lost players, but they got the same defensive coordinator. Their defense was pretty hard to deal with last year. Okay? Florida's was not. They gave up points to everybody. It didn't matter except Utah. Utah had no offense. That's why it wasn't as ugly as it should have been. Other teams outside of Rutgers, a lot of people had a hard time running the football in Miami. I think Miami contains Florida's run game and makes Florida's offense one-dimensional. And at some point, I believe Miami will take over in the battle of the trenches. And that's one thing Miami has done a lot better of lately, even a lot of close losses. They've been able to control the line of scrimmage a lot better. They were able to play with FSU up front with Jordan Travis. So, and really what hurt Miami is they didn't really have much of a quarterback this past year. That was very good. Guess what? They bring back most of their offensive line. They've got a bunch of good running backs to rely on. They've always got good wide receiver play. Restrepo, I think he's still there, right? Give me Miami to outplay Florida. 31-28, go Canes. Coaching will be the difference in this game.